Welcome to This Podcast is Making Me Thirsty, the number one destination for Seinfeld fans. This is Two Up and Two Down. Here's our producer, Chris, to start us off.
All right, welcome back, everybody. And today's episode is the Calzone from season 7. So, Chris, why don't you start us off? What do you got for your first up?
The Calzone, Berg and Schaefer, April of 96. 28.5 million people watched this episode on Thursday night. You guys know the deal. 2 positives and 2 negatives, no matter what. We don't share notes, so let's go. All right. I'm going to go with the Steinbrenner opening scene. At the meeting. I love when Big Stein's at the meeting. He's holding court with, it's not just a Wilhelm or Mr. Morgan. It's, when you're in a Steinbrenner meeting, something big's happening. I love that they were all eating lunch, and just Larry David brought so much to Steinbrenner, just so much personality. Obviously, we know they tried to get the big man in himself. It didn't work out, which I think worked out because Larry David was unbelievable. Talking about the calzones, when he got some eggplant there, he just takes it from George and starts eating, and we know what happens, obviously. But again, tone setters and opening scene, you know how I feel usually about season 7, but that was, that captured me, and you want to keep moving on and learn what's going to happen next. So for me, the Steinbrenner opening scene, first up.
Yeah, when the episode is called The Calzone, you better start off with the calzone. So, all right. Thank you, Chris. Tony, over to you. What's your first up?
Yeah, Big Stein, love it. My first up for the calzone is, and I tend to do this a lot now that I'm looking at my notes. And listen, I do it a lot because it's what's there, man. You got to find what you're finding, right? So, friend of the show. Peter Alias, playing the calzone guy. I think it's fair to use him as the up. He's in 2 scenes, and I think he delivers in both of them. Given his Italian gibberish, get the hell out of here to both, Kramer and George. I think, it's a testament to, we say this a lot, and just want to reiterate, especially if you're just watching this for the first time. It's a testament to Hirschfeld. It's a testament to Elias himself. I mean, you picked the right guy to play this part. I mean, you couldn't have picked a better guy to play this part. He talked to us about us, how he knows his dialects and things like that, and just got the feel. And this guy works behind the counter at a pizza place in New York, and he ain't taking no shit from nobody. He pulls out the thing and yells at Kramer. I mean, on and on. I think, the episode's called The Calzone, and you need someone like that to kind of push both of those scenes through. And man, does he do a great job, and just a great guy to talk to as well. So, I'm going to give that my first up.
Yeah, Peter was a great guest on the show, so definitely worth a check out after this episode here. And he also delivers one of my favorite lines of Seinfeld, so that's why I love his character too. Over to you, Chris. What do you got for your second up?
What's the line?
What the hell do I know about cooking a shirt?
All right, second up, the calzone. This was the 4th to last episode for Larry David, believe it or not. So just something to think about there. I know there's a lot of Steinbrenner in here. I'm going to go Newman. I thought Newman played a solid role here. I like the whole... not working in the rain. Oh, Mr. Steinbrenner can get very angry. Him kind of needling George. And that's just, again, when you grew up with Steinbrenner, before they started winning, he had an aura about him, a fear that, everyone from the postman to your grandmother knew who George Steinbrenner was. And I think I felt that in this episode with Newman in an interesting way. So, and then him obviously not delivering, and George saying, the postman's creed, nor rain, da-da-da-da-da. Pretty good stuff. So for me, I'm going to go Newman as my second up in the calzone.
Yeah, definitely good Newman episode here. All right. Tony, over to you. What's your second up?
Agreed. I wrote that down too. This was a solid Newman episode. One piece of pepperoni pizza. I just love that. I don't care for you, Stanza. You hang out on the west side of the building with. You don't get a George and Newman too often, and I think that O'Hara hit the nail on the head there. It's a perfect little scene there. I love it. I love it says the west side of the building too. I always get a kick out of that. My second up is the K-Man. I think, listen, I've said this before. Michael Richards, Kramer, he can make anything work. And when they give him something with some meat on it, he really takes it to a new level. I mean, carrying the change in his pockets, just that once. How did they do that scene? Because they could have done more than one take. Once he falls, that changes everywhere. They're not going to reset, put change back in his pocket, have him do it over again. Maybe they did. Who knows? My guess is that was like one take of Kramer just walking down the street with the pockets and putting his shirt in the dryer, the whole thing. He does his shit, it's a warm shirt and. One the way he says calzone to the guy, one calzone, please. He says, he can. He's in with everybody, even at the pizza guy behind the counter, he knows how to talk to him, and just the whole thing there. I thought Kramer really delivered for what he had in this episode, and I think we got to give Michael Richards his just due on this one because physical comedy is where he's at, and I laugh every time. I don't know what it is, just the bulky pockets on the change and everything like that. So running after the bus. He knows Newman's not. Well, that's right. Yeah, Newman doesn't work at the raid. He says, "Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, I'll do it for you, George." He's always looking to help everybody out, no matter what it is. He's right on top of it. I love the way he says the one by the stadium. I mean, anyone from New York, just call it the stadium. I just love that very, very specific line there. That's what it is. It's the stadium. Yeah, love it. I give the K-Man my second up.
Yeah, great stuff there by the K-Man. So yeah, good points there, Tony. So now the downs. Chris, what do you have for your first?
So funny. There's 1,000 pizza places by the stadium, but anyway. Downs. I mean, there's enough downs, believe me. But I guess I'm going to go Todd Gack. I think he just represents every, I don't know, square, like Elaine boyfriend kind of in these later episodes. Like, the whole is it a date? Enough? Is it a date? Is it not a date? Like, talk about beating a dead horse. I just didn't love Todd Gack. I know people, funny name, I guess, but he kind of reminded me like the hairy guy from the gym. Like, all these guys kind of just are like the same. You know what I mean? Like Todd Gack, it is a great name, a good name, but like, I don't know. I think Hirschfeld missed on this one just a little bit. Or that could have been intended. I don't know. I trust Hirschfeld here. But for me, Todd Gack, he missed a little bit. His stupid little smile and Dustin Hoffman thing and Richard M. Milhouse, like Nixon. It was too much. And way too many scenes, way too many lines, way too many references about Todd Gack. So for me, first down.
All right, yeah, I can see how you could be kind of gacked out. All right, Tony, over to you. What do you got for your first down?
That was going to be my first down. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I hated Gack so much. He bothered me. Everything about him brought the mother. Can't two people just have a good time? I didn't like Gack at all. O'Hara covered it all there. I just thought, the premise was okay, but to O'Hara's point, too many scenes, overplayed. Didn't like Gack himself as the actor, what have you. Would have him on the show in a second. But listen, the name itself, whatever. But to O'Hara's point, that was a big down for me. My second down is, my first down is, this is season 7, George, folks, and there's a lot of yelling. There's just it kind of starting to creep. I mean, some of the Newman stuff was okay. And I get O'Hara's point. Yes, he's afraid of Steinbrenner. I don't know, man. I go back and forth with this one. It's one of those episodes, like, it's not the worst George, don't get me wrong, but it's enough of bad George. Aside for the no rain, no sleep, nor slow is the first one line. If he just did that, I'd be okay. But he does so much more. He yells in Jerry's apartment so much. He's yelling at Newman early on. When we gave Newman an up, I think George wasn't his best. I just, the overall vibe of this episode is not the best George. The best way I could explain it. And so because of that, really, I don't have a lot of downs written down, which is, you know, it's not obviously, an A episode. We'll get to the grades, but there just aren't a lot of things to choose from as far as downs go. Um, O'Hara took Gak, so I'm going to say the George stuff. He's becoming the George we don't like. He's not fully there, but there's enough hints of it that I'm going to give that a down.
All right. Thank you, Tony. And now back to Chris. What do you got for your second down?
Yeah, I'm gonna go because I think Tony. I'm gonna save one for him because I think he's gonna take it. But I'm just gonna go with some lines here I didn't like. Uh, the she's like a beautiful Godzilla, and I'm like thousands of fleeing Japanese. Like what? Like that? That's in reference to Nikki, right? Like I don't know. And a couple closing lines, when Elaine goes, "You're crazy," and Jerry's like, "Crazy like a man." Like, just I don't know if these lines are for like promos they ran, like, and that's gonna have me watch the show that week because they didn't fit. Like the Godzilla stuff. I don't know. Maybe that's just Berg and Schaefer have some affinity there for the old film or something, but to me it didn't fit. So I'm going lines here, just a couple slight downs, but downs nonetheless.
Yeah, I touched on it with Gak when O'Hara gave the down. Like a lot of this happens later season. I know this is 7, and we're not talking 8 and 9 here, but it kind of creeps in too much where the premise is okay, but the execution and kind of the played outness of the joke kind of falls flat. The execution of it, like, okay, yeah, hot girl gets everything she wants, whatever. The movie, fine, but the scene with the driving Jerry on the steering wheel, and you must a lot faster than that. I mean, I'll never like that. I don't know. The cop all looking in Nikki's eye. Do you have to give us a? And Jerry gets out of the car. I get what they're doing again, like yeah, but it's one of those things where they just have to show the premise in 3 different scenes to kind of hammer it home, and that scene I don't like. I don't like Jerry, banging on the steering wheel and the whole a lot faster than that. You must have caught me when I was going on that curve or whatever. Like I don't know. Never liked it live. Didn't like it again on the rewatch. And again, I understand the premise, but at this point, you executed it way too many times and a little bit poorly, if you will. And the whole ticket thing, I didn't love. The movie ticket thing was solid. Just that's all we needed to get the idea of who Nikki is, right? And how obviously Elaine doesn't get to see the movie, and that's a bit of a. It's always fun when Jerry kind of he didn't get her the tickets or whatever, but I don't love the speeding ticket scene. That's my second down.
See, that's why I left it there for Tony. I knew he was going to take that Jerry. He hates Jerry in the car tapping. And I love it. I put that as an up. I love Jerry tapping.
I didn't even write it down until you said that. I'm like, oh, I know, and that it triggered me because I wasn't even going to use that, but you reminded me of how much I hate that.
For some reason, Jerry tapping on wheels, I love it. Or double McGum, whenever he's in the car and just acting like a little goofball, I love it. Now, I agree with your premise. I did write Jerry's storylines are down. Like, listen, we'd love to have Nikki in the program for sure, but didn't really bring much. The Todd Gak stuff, these lines, too much Gak. But with that said, this is an interesting one. It's I didn't hate George as much as you did. There were some decent, actually a couple good lines that we didn't mention. When Jerry got the cigars. Oh, these are for Peru. I spent $300 on cigars. I could buy a house in Peru for $300. Pretty funny. Obviously Kramer, Peter Alias, unbelievable. George's fear, because I thought about him, like, well, what does he care? Just get it or order it in. He's like, no, I have to have lunch with him. He's making every move with me. The lost and found, all that nonsense. He was, when you get a seat at the table, you don't want to lose that seat. So I can feel that. I've never had a seat at the table, so what do I know? But George certainly did. The stand-up was really good on tip jars. We didn't even mention that. Excellent. Uh, and again, I think this was, Bergen Schaefer relatability, the tip jar thing. I don't think you can really. They didn't. I think they did that well. They didn't beat that, right? I think that was done just right. Like the one time, didn't see it, talked about it, and then boom, he got banned. Brought in Kramer, brought in a lot of good stuff. So all that said, I think this is a solid season 7 episode. You got a lot of Steinbrenner, which is good. You got some good guest stars. Someone's going to drag it down. It's Elaine and Todd Gack. What can you do? But they're not dragging it to a D or F level is what I'm trying to tell you here. I think the Calzone's a smart episode, and I'm going to give it a C+ for the Calzone. I think there's enough there. It's not B level, but I think C+ is a nice fair grade for the Calzone. One of the better season 7, I'd say top 5 to 7 of season 7, to be fair.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris. So now, Tony, over to you. What do you got for a grade here?
Wow, yeah. Higher went higher than I thought he was going there. But before we started talking, I thought he was actually going higher. But you talked it up very high. You pulled one of my moves. You talked it up really high and then gave it a C+. I'm surprised you gave it that high, to be honest with you, but I'm not surprised by the grade because you hit every nail on the head. I wrote down solid stand-up. Love the opening stand-up. It tied into the show perfectly as well. I can't reiterate enough. I agree with you. Todd Gack was bad and really brought it down. This was Steinbrenner's episode to me. I mean, I wrote down a lot of Steinbrenner, tons of Steinbrenner. Steinbrenner basically carried the episode, which you don't get often. George and him talking about the loss of Phallic, or how I mentioned, the whole thing there. He had a lot of scenes. Probably his biggest episode. Newman was great. Peter Alias we mentioned. I didn't love Nikki. I didn't love Gack, and those they are guest stars. So to Harris' point, it can't bring it too far down. I was a little hard on George with my down, but I didn't hate George. I want to make that clear. I thought George was good, just not great. I got the same grade. I mean, I was kind of between a regular flat C and a C+. O'Hara kind of talked me up. I'm talking myself up. I feel like it's an average episode. It's season 7. It's solid. There's nothing really, it's like O'Hara mentioned, you're not turning it off. That's kind of our gauge. We always like to say, there's enough there that keeps you going. I really think Steinbrenner really keeps you going on this one. A lot of Steinbrenner scenes. I mean, I can't talk myself lower, and I definitely can't go higher. I was thinking about a C, but I think a C+ is fair for the Calzone. I think it's an average episode, a little above average. It's a higher echelon season 7 to O'Hara's point. You got Berg and Schaefer, Blame It on the Rain, Means to an End. Always love those, make a habit of giving to the blind, not bills. It's a great Costanza line. I think we landed on the same grade somehow, and I think it's fair. C+ for the Calzone.
All right. Well, thank you guys. So there you have it. C+ for the Calzone. And thank you guys. And we'll see everybody on our next episode. Thank you.